All right, we're fast approaching the 5th anniversary of BKFC 1, which went down in June of 2018, and very happy to be talking to an individual who was featured on that event and had a very standout moment on that event. One of many things we're going to be talking about. Happy to be speaking with Sam Shewmaker. How's your day going there, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. We just had the holidays, and everyone seemed to be doing okay. So we had a good time with family, so we're blessed.
Yeah, well, I love hearing that, man, and yeah, glad you had a good holiday stretch there, but kind of turning the clock back a few years here, I'm sort of curious because, I'm wondering what the first thoughts were when a bout offer for, bare-knuckle boxing came your way, because, there was some stuff going on in the UK, like BKB and things like that, but, in America, not really much happening in mid-2018, so what were those initial thoughts when this offer came your way?
I was super excited. I initially got involved with Bare-Knuckle because I went to one of the tryouts there in Philly, the actual first ones that they had, and I ended up making enough of an impression where they wanted to put me on the first show. So just super excited about it, and, had never done it legally before. And, I had some amateur fights and then, some professional boxing matches. So I was excited to jump on the old but yet new bare-knuckle fighting. So it was an honor to be invited, and just super stoked whenever I got the invite.
Yeah, and it's interesting the way you phrased it, because it almost sounded like it was, coming from that historical perspective, like the era of, John L. Sullivan, Jake Kilrain, a lot of individuals like that. Were you kind of looking at it from that perspective too, like kind of interweaving yourself into, that type of, fight culture, fight history, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. That's what, how boxing pretty well got it started was, bare-knuckle. And, just to be mentioned with those kind of names, the legends like that and the pioneers of the sport, is an honor.
Yeah, and it had been over a century since they had a domestic event in America. So another, historical kind of component as well, but kind of adding like some new facets to it as well. So yeah, it must have been an exciting time. From my perspective as a fan, seeing it pop up, I was excited, but I would think that you competing within that, it'd be, on an even greater level of excitement.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, I love to hear that for sure. And I'm kind of wondering like what the, I guess, awareness was of bare-knuckle boxing around that time, like summer 2018, like you were talking about, like knowing the history, like pre, Queensbury rules, gloved boxing establishment there. But what was the awareness of the scene? Like, did you know about like BKB and different scenes like that, or you were mostly doing like gloved boxing and then heard about this offer kind of thing?
I had been watching some of the bare-knuckle stuff overseas online and stuff, and kind of following some of it. So it definitely piqued my interest once I heard that it was going to be legal over here in the States. So I was excited to jump on board and to be a part of it.
Yeah, and like some people I've talked to so far with this have kind of like likened it to sort of how it was with like the UFC, like early on almost. Like there was a certain feeling of like something new, but the kind of unique thing with bare-knuckle is like it does feel new in a sense, but it also feels like something very, familiar at the same time. So like how do you like feel about that whole thing? Like did it feel like you were part of something that was going to like have that kind of longevity and carry forward, or was it like okay, let's see how this event goes and maybe see if it's like a sustainable kind of thing after?
A little bit of both, but once I got to know Dave Feldman, the president and CEO of Bare-Knuckle Fighting Championship, and who all he was bringing in to help out, and just their work ethic and their business plan, I knew that it was going to be successful, and was excited to be able to be a part of the first few shows, and help usher in a new era of fighting here in America.
Yeah, and very heavyweight centric too, just that like 8-man tournament with like the big cash prize and stuff like that. So that must have been cool too for you as well, just being like a heavyweight player, and it seemed like they were putting a lot on that division from the jump.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone always loves to see the big boys go at it. It's pretty well the most popular division is the heavyweight division in any combat sport. So to be able to be a part of that and know how exciting it was going to be, we just we're really happy to be a part of it, to be invited.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm kind of wondering, like, were the feelings altogether unique, like pulling up to the arena on fight day, just like all of the, I guess, backstage warm up kind of dynamics? Like, was there a different kind of feeling in the air? Like, was there a sense of like this is a unique kind of like event where there's a lot of question marks, unknowns, etc., or did it feel kind of familiar in a sense?
It was definitely very unique. Being able to be a part of such a big event, the inaugural, first event. It was televised. First time I'd been on a live televised event. So just super excited and just, almost like it was a dream. A dream come true. All that hard work and all the years of preparation, not knowing what my journey was going to entail to be invited and to be a part of something like that was definitely a dream come true.
Yeah, and with the benefit of, history and being able to look back on what happened since, it's really much seemed like Wyoming, and specifically Cheyenne, Wyoming, was like a very key spot for Bare-Knuckle very early on, at least, with like it coming back in America and whatnot. So cool to see that component as well. Like I felt like Wyoming really established itself in that regard and helped the sport grow. What do you think about that?
Yeah, hats off definitely to Wyoming and the Athletic State Commission in Wyoming. Without them, we wouldn't be able to get our feet on the ground and get going. So, it's awesome that they were able to take the chance on us and to, get us going and get this bare knuckle fighting championship sport going. So.
And leading into everything, like, what was your awareness of your opponent? Like, obviously, Eric Prindle, a former Bellator fighter, and everything like that. Like, was there a level of awareness going into this, or because it's like a brand new sport, it's almost hard to like game plan and tape study for in a certain way?
Yeah, for sure. He's a well-known fighter, a real big veteran in combat sports. He had a really big amateur background, a very successful one, and then of course he won one of the tournaments there in Bellator as well as a heavyweight. And just he had a lot of film and stuff out there on him, so we were able to study up on him and see what kind of fighter he was. Big, powerful guy, big, strong guy. He looks like a gladiator from back in the day. So it was. We were very aware of what he was and who he was and what he could do. So we feel like we kind of had a little bit of advantage there, just because there wasn't much on me out there, so he didn't get a lot to study as far as that.
And was the camp unique in any kind of regard, just preparing for bare knuckle competition, or did it maybe more resemble like what you would normally do in a boxing camp?
We definitely took it to another level, a lot more ungloved stuff that we were doing. And we actually went out to the mountains a few weeks before the fight, so that way we could get acclimated to the elevation change, and the breathing and doing that differently, because I've never fought out in the mountains in the elevation like we did. So it was definitely unique as far as that goes for us in our camp and preparations.
I was going to say good to have that foresight and understanding of what the environment is to, prepare yourself for it, but ultimately didn't encroaching too much into the distance there. Pretty quick one there, under like 20 some odd seconds there. Like, what was the sensation like when you were landing that like first kind of big punch? Like a lot of the other guys I've been talking to so far who were on that first BKFC event, like they were in like longer, more drawn out kind of fights, but it seemed like it was kind of like just like a big, emphatic one-punch knockout for you. So, like, what did it feel like? Did it feel altogether different than landing, like, a gloved strike?
Oh, definitely. I've hit quite a few people barehanded, so I knew the feeling, but as far as, like, doing it like that on that big a stage in front of the cameras and the lights and everything, and, some of the big-time names that were ringside watching, and, of course, all the people out on in the world watching on TV and for years later on the internet, it was just awesome. It was like hitting a home run. It really was. It was a great feeling, and just, my uncle and brothers and a bunch of my friends, we all went out there and they made the long trip from where we're at to go and watch. So it was quite a feeling for us, getting that win and in that type of fashion too. That's what you want to see. When people watch the heavyweights fight, they want to watch that big knockout, and that's what we got. So it was awesome.
Yeah, I feel like it's become one of your big career highlights, and just really one of the big highlights from that event in general. Like, I think either your knockout or the Tony Lopez Joey Beltran fight was like the big moments on the card. I mean, for me at least, checking it out. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, great stuff for sure. And I mean, just a stacked card in general. Like some of the fighters I was talking to, I was asking about if they have any particular memories about some of the different fights that were on the card that night. Like I know some fighters are very like blinders on and kind of just like are focusing squarely on what they're doing more so, but just, you know, seeing some of the names, like I mentioned Beltran and Lopez, but also like Beck Rawlings was on the card, like Bobby Gunn, Johnny Bedford, like I could go on and on. Do you have any particular like memories from some of the other fights that were on that first BKFC event?
Yeah, having Bobby Gunn, the legendary Street Fighter, Bare-Knuckle King, he was out there. It was great to watch him get out there and to talk to him and to meet him. And then Rodriguez, he was in the main event. It was cool to meet him and see him. He was an ex-UFC heavyweight champ. I mean, and of course, Beck Rawlings and Beltran and Lopez. It was really awesome watching all them in Bedford, get out there and showcase their skills in the bare-knuckle arena. It was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm kind of wondering, like, just your thoughts on the scene that has developed since, like, I mean, how things were in June 2018. Like, the show itself kind of got things off to a good start, but it seems like there's been such, pronounced growth over the last, like, half a decade in the bare-knuckle scene. And, I mean, you're someone who's challenged for the heavyweight title a pair of times and have always been pretty prominent in the sport. So I guess I'm curious for your perspectives on, how the scene is nowadays versus like how everything kind of looked with that first kickoff event.
Yeah, it's just been an amazing growth, I feel like, in the popularity for bare knuckle and just the amount of fans that have really jumped on and been a part of it and just following us and just, the events just keep getting bigger and better. And, I think Dave and them are really learning with each show what to do and what not to do and just how to help get people's attention and bringing on big name fighters from the UFC and ex-boxers and things. I mean, he just keeps getting better and better at it. So I feel like in the next 10 years, the sport's really going to just grow leaps and bounds compared to what it already has, and it's going to be, the next big thing next to the UFC.
Yeah, for sure. And earlier I was kind of talking about like this first event having maybe similar feelings to like that first UFC event. And in certain regards that is true. But I feel like what UFC kind of did early on too was like go in the almost like blood sport kind of direction with promoting it. Whereas like BKFC has seemingly gone the other way with it and shown that, hey, it's like a sport where there's not really like pronounced rates of like CTE compared to other sports. There's not really like as many handbrakes that go on and stuff like that, etc., etc. So I feel like that's been a huge thing for the sport too, and I think we've seen it too with like certain places legalizing it now and having like regulation to it, and it seems like it's growing more around the world.
Yeah, I think people are really coming to realize that, with the studies and stuff they're coming out with and the statistics that they've been doing, and they've been doing a great job of it, that bare knuckle is actually, safer than MMA. There's less concussions, there's less long-term brain injury. It looks bloody and there's lots of cuts and things, which is fine. That's going to happen, especially with a bare knuckle. But you're not going to be able to hit somebody as hard over and over again with a bare knuckle, and people aren't going to be able to take that much of a punishment like you do in a boxing match for like 12 rounds. So the brain damage is obviously less, and so in turn, bare knuckle fighting is actually one of the least amount of dangerous sports as far as the long-term damage to a fighter, which is great for us. It's actually more protection than going in there for 12 rounds and getting beat up with a glove, or going out there in MMA and getting kicked in the face with a shin or a knee or an elbow. So.
Yeah, for sure. Such tremendous growth. And I mean, yeah, it's a really incredible sport, no doubt. I'm kind of wondering though, like, I mean, obviously the career's still going and more great memories to be had, but just like where you're at now, like where does this night rank in your overall like history as a combatant? Like, is it a particularly like special, memorable night to you looking back?
I'd say it's in the top two for sure. Just, being the first time on the big stage like that, meeting all the people I got to meet, and just being in the same ring with some of the names that I was in there with was such an honor. And it really did catapult my career to where it's at today. And, without them, I would be where I am. So, I'd say that was probably, if not the best night, definitely the top two of my career.
yeah, such a memorable knockout in your fight, and really a lot of great highlights on that first kickoff event. But it's been great getting to talk to you, Sam, and I appreciate the insights, but also want to be mindful of your time too and everything like that. So is there anything you might want to like add kind of as a parting thought as we're wrapping up, like maybe an anecdote from the first BKFC event that you recall that maybe wasn't touched on, or I mean anything really, but just yeah, any parting thoughts?
Yeah, just want to thank my wife and my kids and my family and all my training partners and coaches. Without them, I wouldn't be able to go do what I did, and there was many sacrifices, not just on my part, but on theirs, and all the hard work and tireless hours that we put into the training and the preparation to get there, so, and the sacrifices. So a big shout out to all of them, and without them and the fans, that we wouldn't be where we are today. So just thank all of them very much with all my heart. I love you guys. Appreciate your time, Dylan. Thanks for giving me a shout and, letting me come on and be a part of your show too.
Yeah, no, good getting to talk to you. It'd been a little bit. I think the last time we spoke was like after you had the Kenzie Morrison boxing fight, so it'd been a little bit. Now been like a couple years, even a little bit more than that. So good to have you on the show again, and yeah, hopefully can have you on for whenever the next fight is. But until then, you enjoy the rest of your day there, Sam.
Okay, Dylan. Appreciate it, sir. Have a happy new year, and I look forward to talking to you again, sir.